Last week someone said to me, February is the cruelest month, not April. And who'd disagree, I think? February is the cruelest month, it's not April. Whatever that, that poet was a little bit crazy anyway, but. So the cold and the gray can really start to feel like quite a drag this month. And even with the erratic winters we're having due to climate change and with some days being weirdly spring-like, like possibly today, right? Enough to trick crocuses to come out early and that sort of thing. This shortest month still can feel like the longest month. And I grew up in Wisconsin, and so March doesn't always bring spring even. So February can just really feel like a long haul, like we're in it for a long haul, and there's nothing much to look forward to. So if you're inclined to despair, and there are lots of things that can incline us to despair, this can be a hard time. And so many cultures in temperate regions have festivals around this time that relate to the length of winter and the anticipation of spring, like Groundhog Day in our country. Now, I, for one, don't recommend putting our faith in rodent-based divinations. And Punxsutawney Phil's actually performs worse than a coin flip. But for what's really at stake here, we don't need to retreat to magic because, the fact is geologically, we are now just past that halfway point between winter solstice and spring equinox. And so, in the words of Kathleen Norris, spring may seem far off, it may seem impossible, but it is coming. Already there is dusk instead of darkness at 5 p.m. Already hope is stirring at the edges of the day. And many plants and seeds are beginning the process, I'm told, of stirring out of their dormancy in preparation for spring. And people who are growers are doing things like gathering for seed swaps, like we did yesterday, and drawing up plans for gardens. And we know that God has made this world good and worthy of love and worthy of flourishing. And so periods of darkness and cold can in fact be fertile times in their own way. Important parts of the larger cycles of life and death and rebirth, of action and of rest and of preparation for renewed vitality. And so this can be a time for that second part, that preparation for renewed vitality. That's yet to come, but soon, and it's stirring. So one of the traditional festivals at this time that I do recommend is St. Brigid's Day in Ireland. And St. Brigid is a beloved embodiment of the life-giving, life-renewing powers of the heart of Christ in someone's life. In Ireland, there are many wells that are dedicated to St. Brigid, and she was someone who drew so fully and openly from the deep and the true source of the living waters of Christ in our life, which quench our deepest thirst. St. Brigid was born to a woman who was enslaved, and the experience of her upbringing, coupled with her experience with the living Christ, made her lovingly attentive to those who need special nurture, especially those who've been neglected. She's associated with the sacred powers of bringing fertility and creativity and healing and renewed life out of situations that have become desperate. And so she's the patron saint of the hearth, of fertility, of midwives, of newborns, especially children whose parents are not wed. She's the patron saint of creative arts, of blacksmiths and printers and poets, as well as of livestock that we rely on their fertility for life. So chickens and cows and those who work with them. And so St. Brigid's feast day is February 1st, which makes sense because this is when winter can start to really feel desperate, but we can reasonably look to the coming of spring. And so in Ireland, as I shared with the children, one of the practices of St. Brigid's Day is to go to one of her wells and to dip a piece of cloth in the water and to tie that cloth to a nearby tree. It's called dressing the well. And so often there's an ancient tree by these wells that then accumulate these prayers. Oftentimes people use this as a way of praying for healing for someone they love or for themselves, and so they bring a piece of cloth that's from the person who's on their sickbed. But it's also a way to pray for the other ways that we may be needing or yearning for renewed vitality, praying for a blessing on whatever new buds we are anticipating, that we are preparing to emerge, hoping to emerge soon. And so I and our worship committee thought we could do this together, and so we prepared this way for us to do this together as a prayerful ritual that can be part of our prayer time. And so I ask us to prayerfully reflect on what is preparing to grow for you or for someone you care about, or for our society, or for our world. What potential for renewal do you deeply hope for, that's deeply needed, especially to help you, to help us, to help others in our world live more fully into the promises of God's love in our lives, more fully into who God has created us to be for this season and this time. So I invite us to prayerfully consider a kind of whatever glimpse we can get of a God's eye view of ourselves and for those we care about in our world. And what we can do together is then take some time to pray on these questions, and we'll do this like our like the beginning of our prayer practice, our prayers of the people. So there'll be some contemplative music. You can pray in this way. And then when you feel ready and moved, you can come forward here and take a strip of cloth. And like I invited the kids, you can take two, one for inside and one for later outside, if you feel so moved. And then to place your hope, your prayer into this cloth as a way of offering it to God, to dip it into our font of many blessings, knowing that that God's Spirit is like the waters that nourish our hopes and our potentials. And like I shared with the kids, you can it'll drip off pretty quickly, but give it a few shakes. And then you can tie it to this tree and keep one to tie outside if you like. And then this is part of our prayer time. So we also have prayer slips. If there's a prayer that you'd like to have shared in our community, I will. You can write that out as well, and when you come forward, you can place the prayer slip in this basket. And then after our ribbon tying, our dressing of the well, I'll then lead us into praying with each other and for each other, and then we'll end with the Lord's Prayer. So does that seem clear enough, the invitation? And it's an invitation to take as you need or not. And so may we be in a prayerful way, and to know that God is with us as a wellspring of vitality and renewal for what new life is yearning to come forth through ourselves on behalf of those we care for and our world. And so may we pray in this way, and the invitation is open.